Welcome back, friends. I'm wearing black because the game is dead. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. Look, yesterday was not Atlas's or Perfect World's or whomever's finest moment. We waited all day for the English translation of the Japanese stream. It's now the next day. We've had maintenance, patches here, and still nothing. So not exactly the greatest moment at hyping your product when your product has launched before you've talked about it with everybody. And even the patch notes came out yesterday at some point when I was sitting on stream. Somebody, told me, and I looked at them long before we even get whatever translated, live stream they want to give us. And so a lot of us are upset about that. They also did some, news bombs and just kind of dropped the grenade and were like, peace, and walked away. So I want to talk about those things. I want to talk about the patch, try to get some good news in here as well for you Yui pullers, something that we noticed that Najox points out and I just confirmed, at least in the descriptions in the game. Now we've had translation issues, so hopefully it's not a translation issue. Maybe someone who's already pulled her can confirm, but I'm not pulling her till tonight on stream. So let's dive into it all. So first, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because you're going to ask, you asked on stream yesterday, there was the bomb of the standard banner. Let me show it to you. So Minami, the way that this worked in other servers is they had their 2-week window where they had a limited pull. So this is not unusual. This is normal. But when this banner ended, they moved directly into the standard banner. So from what they said yesterday, they will not immediately move her over here to this banner when her limited ends. She will still move. She will still move. We just don't know when. And so, we can speculate around. My best guess, and I have nothing to base this off of, is that it'll be right before Fox hits. And the reason I say that is she did not come out on the other servers at the same time as Yui. She would have been a couple weeks later. And so maybe by them pulling her forward, they need to wait until she would have normally gone into the standard banner. I don't know why that would be the case, but to me, it makes no sense to push her beyond that Fox timeline, because there's no precedent for it and there's no gain for it. I think if anything, we could argue that maybe they wanted to pull her in here and give that gap so people would feel their wallets and say, you know what, I got to get her, FOMO, I heard she's the best healer, blah, 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 and pull her now. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's, conspiracy theory on my side. But whatever the case is, I think the worst part of that isn't that they're not putting her into a standard banner right away. It sucks. It stings. Yes, I've been holding tickets to pull her. But I think the worst part is they just didn't add one sentence. They could have just added one sentence to their statement and said, and she'll be out on X date. Boom. Information, people. Information is what's needed here. It was the same issue, I think, in my mind with the live stream. They dropped at like 4 o'clock a.m. my time, a Twitter post that's like, hey, today, the 9th, we're going to have this live stream. It's going to be on our official YouTube channel. Keep an eye on our socials, blah, blah, blah. So myself, Najox, many others in the community, frequently throughout the day, we're checking all these different paths. I teed up a video waiting to have this conversation with you for that stream. And lo and behold, I went to bed. I got up. Thankfully, my 6 a.m. meeting was canceled, and so I can film now, and it's still not there. I get it. It's hard work to translate these things. It was a live stream. There's a lot of localization you have to do. I work for a global company that goes through these sort of things. Pick a better strategy. I'm sure Atlas or whomever is not going to watch this video. They're not coming to my content to get ideas on what they need to do with their lives. But I think it would have been better if it was just pre-recorded. Yes, they didn't know what the live streamers were going to say specifically. That's fair. Then have a different live stream for your global audience. Or don't have a live stream at all for your global audience and do like they did with that last one, and it's just pre-recorded, it was shortened down, still gave the valuable information. What we wanted was information. That should have been deliverable. It's not like we didn't know what 1.1 would have. Well, they knew. We didn't know everything. And they could have just prepared something different. And I've seen other Gacha games handle this by just having different community managers for different regions. I go back to the City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia and had probably my favorite community managers. Joshua was in there, Glacie, something like that was in there as well. And they would have a monthly 1-hour stream with slides that were prepared, obviously by the company, on what they could talk about. And it was a good time. Gave everybody information. They would give a couple, codes and stuff, every now and again. and we would have what we needed, and everyone would get hyped. And that next month, we're like, I can't wait for this banner or this event or whatever. They could do that here. And hey, if they don't want to do it, everybody, like, go tell them to send it my way. I'll do it for them. I'll do it for them for free. So, you know, I think there's ways for them to do better on the next one. And I hope that's what it is. I hope they learn from this and they say, oh my God, look at this bad press. I saw people review bombing them on Steam. You don't necessarily have to go that far. I think there's bad ramifications of doing that as well, and some good ones. Sometimes it gives notice. But I think they simply can just be better at preparing information. They know when their patches are coming. They know what's in them. They know they have a global audience. This isn't a surprise to them. They knew this was coming. So just be better at it. And if you're going to drop your big, you know, nuke bombs of, you know, changing standard banner things like with Miriam, just give us the rest of the info. When is it coming? Simple enough. So I think those are probably the biggest news pieces that upset people, rightfully so. I was a little bit upset by it as well. Now, as far as Miriam goes, I think that the thing to know is I would not let this deter you from waiting if that's what you were going to do. Now, someone on stream yesterday mentioned, hey, you know, it's a 1 in 6 chance once it hits the standard banner. Very true. You could run the risk of never getting her the standard banner. There is somebody out there who will be that unlucky, unfortunately. Or they'll get her like a year from now and they don't care anymore because they've got Yukari or something like that. And so if you absolutely feel the need that you have to have her, this is your limited time to get her. So I'm not going to tell you to pull her or not pull her. She's an absolutely fantastic unit. I've used her all the time. I still used her up until I stopped playing actively KR. And she is fantastic. She's worth the hype. I'm not going to tell you differently. Eventually I'll make a guide for her. But the simple thing is, you don't need her right now. The content's not pushing Minami in a place that you have to have her. I mean, I still go by the fact that I don't think any character is an absolute 100% must pull. There's some that are up there. But if you were going to wait anyways, don't let this news deter you from your original strategy. That's how gacha games get you. If you're new to gacha games, you're coming from Persona just as a fan, this is how they get you, is stuff like this. So keep to your original strategy. If your strategy was to pull limited, pull limited. If your strategy is to wait for standard, wait for standard. I hate that I'm waiting longer, but I'm going to wait anyways. So that's my spiel on her, but yes, she's fantastic. Let's talk about some good news now with Yui that was unexpected. So I don't have the character yet. I will be getting her tonight on stream if you follow me. And they buffed her highlight. So let me pull this up so I can show you at least in her skills, even though I don't necessarily have her. So if I look here, this highlight used to apply for 1 turn. So basically, let me just read it through you here. Increase attack by an amount, increase follow-up damage by an amount for 2 turns. Cool. Activate follow-up attacks after allies deal damage with skills for 2 turns. It's only 1 turn everywhere else. It doesn't make her top meta defining. This is a big strength to her. So this is a good change in a positive direction for Yui. Now they probably could have did a bit more, like, I don't know, increase her overall, chance to do follow-ups and things, but this is still really good. So for you Yui pullers, this is good news. It's good news for me. If you were on the fence on Yui, I don't think that is the thing that kicks you over the fence, says, oh, I gotta pull her now. So, I would still caution you on pulling Yui. She's not the worst character. She's not the best character. She's just kind of eh. And there's not a bunch of content that's going to need her. In her content cycle, yes, she's phenomenal. She's going to help you with scores, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about that before. But I don't think she's an absolute vital pull. I'll make a build guide for her later, and I'll talk about that more in depth. I don't want to make this video 7 hours long. But let's talk about what else is in this patch. Now, unfortunately, you cannot see my notices. I was looking at my OBS, and when I pull up notices, for whatever reason, it doesn't show on the screen. It treats it as a separate window. So just know that I'm reading this. There's not much else I can do. So the big one is we've got Heart Rail now. I've not started the mission. I literally just got up, I don't know, 50 minutes ago at this point. But in the event shop, or not in the event shop, in the events, you'll see they also added some custom things with it. So they do have a actual event that's running side by side. We can get extra, route tickets, and that's, these little things up here. And those route tickets are used in Spin to Win. So Spin to Win, just so you know if you didn't see this, you have different boxes. So like this first one, the big winner is going to be the milli coins. Then you've got gold tickets, platinum tickets, more milli coins, scroll over, some incense, and then you've got this big thing here. So something you can do, so just know this before you pull, is I can come in here and switch my box. So now I'm set to box 3. So I'm assuming that means that when I do my pull, that's the box. You can see the icon here that I can potentially get. So, you know, think about your prizes. I'm not sure just how hard these tickets will be to get. They also say they're attainable by clearing Marathon's limited time offers, but just, you know, keep that in mind. You do get some over here as well. So you can get some just by like playing the game, you know, daily and everything. So you're probably gonna get enough to clear the shop, would be my guess, and if not, close enough to it. And hopefully the things that you would be missing are gonna be things like, oh, okay, I didn't get, you know, a couple of these or whatever. But I would focus down your big prizes as much as you possibly can and try to, you know, get those first before you worry about your materials or whatever else. So that's what's going on with that event. You also just have the train as a permanent addition to the game. Now you do have to do a quest to open it, so you can see mine is not open. But if you just go into your quest log, you will see in your missions a very simple one, and it's in blue. So whenever you see blue, it's like a new feature. So here we go. If you do this, this is going to open up that feature. I will do this, you know, sometime later, not necessarily right now. And that's pretty much how you get into it. So if you do this before server reset, you might get more of those dailies. So do keep that in mind. I might try to, you know, rush out that quest just to get a couple extra tickets if I have time, you know, at lunch or something like that. So that's coming, or not coming, that is here. As far as other things, let me pull up the notice again. There is one that I'm not entirely sure of, and it is referencing our boy back here. So Shichikun in Shibuya. I don't know what this one is. It says, let me read this over here, but it says that it is a city life activity and minigame capsules, Shichikun's Circus Parade Shibuya exclusive. Maybe that opens with a quest, you know, after you do a certain thing, maybe after you clear Palace 2 or after you do a certain other event. But I talked to him, I went to the capsule machine, and I can't find anything for this. If it is a capsule machine, and what I mean by that is the gacha game that's in the gacha game, so you gacha lovers love you gacha. If it's that, then just know that sometimes in the past, they've had where you can get like 150 gems for completing a collection. And so if we go down to our machine here, I'll show you where it's at. So keep an eye on that one. I don't know exactly what it is, but if it's that, oops, I just walked right past it. If it's that, the capsule machine's right here. But like I said, I don't see anything new in this just yet. So keep an eye out. I don't know exactly what that is. Something else they talk about here is, you know, you got new synergy unlocks. So, you know, Shun, after you finish your Palace 2, which obviously is a main feature of this particular patch, he'll open up just kind of like, you know, Closer did. They've added Yui, Yelling, Motoha, Closer. Tomoko, Kaio, and Merope have, you can go, you know, further into their synergies. So, you know, keep pushing those if you can with your dailies, with your action points, everything else. They got some side missions for a couple of people. As usual, that'll open up with your quests and everything else. They've got some new city life updates for band club, soccer practice. I've already got the quests in my log, so just check your quest log. And of course, you get extra XP for doing these quests, so they are very valuable. And then the other thing that they noted is actually, and this one you can read through on your notes. So if you go to your notices, it's the very first one under updates. They did correct some bugs, and they did correct some translation issues. I don't think they got all of them, but there's quite a few in there that they noted. And so just read through it. It's some skill text issues, things like that. Hopefully they continue to do that. Again, I'm not going to bore you by reading all of them. It's in the notices. So that's, you know, a lot of the big stuff there. Hey, quick edit in here. I'm going to slide this somewhere in the video where it makes sense, but I meant to cover the shop and I didn't. So for those spenders out there, let's just briefly talk about the new packages and if I think that they're valuable or worth it. So first of all, the 7-day spoils pass I think is pretty good. I'm actually debating getting this one myself. So you start off getting, you know, basically 400 gems. So 2 pulls and a weapon, if you want to call it that. And then you get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more, or 600 more gems. So that's another 4 pulls. So for the $4, that's, you know, worth it just from the way that I value these shops. The rest of the money in here is kind of whatever. It's not bad to get, but it's not amazing. Coffee Aid Pass, if you're, again, a spender who wants to buy some energy, you're getting 300 gems with this, so 2 pulls, not a bad value. If you're probably that mid-spender, that's where you kind of kick this in here. I would say that's not bad. Limited Platinum set, $10, 10 pulls, and a bunch of materials. This is good. So again, if this is kind of your mid-spender range, at this point you're past your Battle Pass and your monthly gem thing. But this is kind of like your typical new patch character kind of shop deal. And for the value of $1 per pull, it's not terrible. So this is another one if you're a mid-spender to look at. I think that's it on this side. And then the training sets, this is an interesting one. So if you want to basically convert 2 pulls into materials, this is a way to do it. I don't think I'll be touching these. As much as I know there's a material crunch and it'll only get worse, I actually am looking at these Kenpaku gems. I'm like 100,000 is feeling pretty good. It's not terrible, but you have to remember you are absolutely trading 2 limited pulls for materials that you can farm over time. So you have to decide if that's worth your gems, your these gems here, the meta jewels, whatever they're called. But it's an interesting one. I don't think it's bad. I just think that it's something you can farm, and so I have a hard time recommending this when you can farm it. So that's it. That's a quick edit. I'll put this in the middle of the video somewhere, and we'll carry on with the video. Now, the other big piece of information, I guess 2 things I want to talk about. One is I haven't seen any codes. Usually on the other servers, we get codes after maintenance to get 300 gems, 600 gems sometimes if you add in the mail, something like that. The only thing I've seen is we've got 100 gems here, kind of cheap, not gonna lie, didn't love that. I mean, it's nice to get these other items for your confidants. You got a gold one here, but it's kind of a shame that that's the only maintenance compensation when we're used to so much more if we're from other servers. I don't know if that's being rebalanced somewhere else or if they're just being stingy, but I hope they come out with a code after their live stream. So, maybe in 14 to 15 weeks and we get some more gems. We'll see. There's that. And then, I wasn't intentionally teasing you with my thumbnail. Let's talk about the other big elephant, and that is the sped up content. So, I'm a very, very patient person, but I'm getting a little bit annoyed, even with my love of this game, at this yo-yo effect. They said no accelerated content at the beginning. Before the game launched, that was from the developers directly. We're going to have the same gap in story. We're not going to speed it up. All this other stuff. We might shift a couple events, which we assumed was maybe the summer and Chinese New Year to time it better with the seasons. Then they came out, and during the expo, they had a picture, and it said, accelerated, and, the community lost their wig. And then it came back, and it's like, no, it's not accelerated. Now they said it's accelerated again. So that came from the stream. And this is why I was waiting for the English stream, is I wanted to see if that was another translation thing. And from everything we can tell, it's not, and there's just no details. So again, this is an example that I get perturbed by of just give us the info. Like, don't start the sentence with no intention to finish. It reminds me of being in a relationship and your partner is like, hey, I've got something important to talk to you about. Yeah. And you're like, okay, what is it? We'll sit down and talk later. Just trust me. That's what it feels like. Many of you have probably been in those conversations in your relationships. It's not amazing. And I feel like in this, developer to community relationship, that's what's happening, is there's something that they feel is important. They're trying to tee it up, but they're not finishing. And that's a problem. And so we don't have, unless something's come out while I'm filming this, we don't have any actual details. And so I'm just going to give you my opinion on how I feel about speeding up the content. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't. I've seen games handle it poorly. Now, there's a couple examples out there where maybe it's done well, but here's the issue with speeding up content is 9 times out of 10, everyone's concern is pulls. Okay, well, if these banners are coming out faster, how do I get the pull economy from my dailies and all these other different things and avenues? I don't have a year to save. Now I maybe have 6 months, 8 months, 2 months, who knows? And yeah, that's super vital. That has to be addressed. But what else has to be addressed is your materials. I think a lot of people underestimate how rare these materials become, or at least how fast they go. And some of the people I've talked to have started to kind of figure out that these are going away. It's when you start leveling characters and you start skilling them up and you start giving them like their final ranks on the weapons, especially when you're pushing to 80, these go fast. And that's not even to talk about the cards. When you start leveling your gold cards at 25, that is going to burn this resource down. And so if you don't have consistent avenues through your dailies and all these other things to kind of replenish that over time, you're just going to feel that crunch harder. So if they're going to speed up content, I really hope that they took that into account and they're like, hey, if we're doing a 5x speed up, then we need to do like a 7x material speed up, because it's not necessarily 1-to-1, because you're also going to be missing several chances for events like the double drops like we had the other day, last week or whatever it was. Those aren't, a one and done and we never see it again. And so if there was, I don't know how many there were, but let's just say that there was 15 or maybe even 12, maybe there was one a month or 6. If we had however many we had, if you cut the time frame in half, you either have to double those or just give them some other way, like adjust the base material income by X%. So if they're not thinking through all of those things, you are not going to be able to build a sped up character cycle. You just won't, and unless you're paying. Of course, that's the other way. So, that brings me concern. Then there's also the, how are they going to time other events? Are we going to go through just a crazy amount of content overload, potentially causing people burnout? Now, I know a lot of people have been like, I need more content. So for those, you probably feel great. And then what? Like you get there, are we then caught up with the other servers and they launch, we launch, or they launch, KR launches, we're a week later? Like, are we within that realm? In which case, fine. The content cycle is probably okay at that point, assuming they address the gap to get there. What about the banners? What's going on with, these month-long banners? If you just count the characters, if they're all a month long, the math doesn't math, or you're gonna have like 15 banners overlapping each other. So there's a lot that they just failed at communicating. And so, if they're going to give us roadmaps, and the current roadmap shows 3.0, it says on the translated piece from August. So I don't know if that means at the end of August or starting into September. I'm not entirely sure what that's meant to translate into, but that roadmap needs to be expanded. We need to have a better idea of what's going on. So this was a little bit of a news piece on 1.1, which I had hoped to give you yesterday, but again, stream isn't out. And a little bit of a, giving you my feedback, my opinions, people are asking about on stream. I'm sure, some people may ask again today, and that's fine. I'll absolutely cover it again. But I like the patch. I like the content. Still in love with this game. It's not dead. I'm not just wearing black to joke around. I just happen to put this shirt on today. But they need to do better. Look, I can be critical when it needs to be critical, and they need to do better. They need to communicate better. They need to not drop bombs and then walk away and act like it was a good bomb. It was a bomb, and they're just like, bye. All right, friends, those are my thoughts. Hope you're okay with that kind of style of video, just kind of talking out loud about, my opinions on how they're handling the game at the moment, and the good news on the good things in the patch, of course, as well. Still love the game, like I said. But with that, I'll be on stream later tonight if you're watching this on the launch day. If not, just check the schedule. I usually stream Saturday nights, and I occasionally throw in some random ones here and there when I have the free time. And until our next stream tonight, or until our next video, please take care of yourselves.